This special coverage of Token 2049 from London is brought to you by Bitcasino and Bitcoin.com.
Welcome to London, and welcome to London on the craziest week that crypto has ever seen. So many unanswered questions this week, and we're here at Token 2049. We're going to go inside and find out what people are thinking and what the sentiment is. Join me, let's go.
No, wait, hold on. Let's stop right there. In fact, let's rewind. Let me set the stage for you. We're in London, more specifically in Canary Wharf, one of the finance centers of the city. It's got the big banks, tallest HSBC and Citigroup buildings towering over the town. The Millennium Dome is where Token 2049 is taking place. And take a look at the London sky. It's grey, reflective of the mood in the market and what went down with FTX this past week, which is nothing short of collapse, capitulation. So big that it's made the top global headlines, and not just in our echo chamber of crypto Twitter, YouTube and the like.
This was actually a total blindside.
Billions of dollars at risk for clients and investors.
The FTX token has fallen by double digits.
It's prudent to proceed with caution.
Coming out of that, back here in London, the question is, where do we go from here? Let's rewind even further. Normally, our conference coverage is fairly upbeat. Just listen now. We're starting with a darker, stormier music, matching the mood. The skies and the outlook on the past week's long shadow cast over our industry. Now back to the show.
As you can see, the conference is sponsored by Bullish, which was the DEX built by the Block 1 founders. I wonder if the mood is as bullish as the DEX. Let's take a look inside. How are you feeling after the events of this week?
It's not great. It's not great. I think of myself as an optimist. I think that there's going to be a better industry that comes about, that we're likely to see greater emphasis placed on centralized exchanges being perhaps more transparent.
It's amazing that now people are calling for more regulation around centralized exchanges. Anyway, let's carry on. As you can see, lots of conference goers here, despite where we're at the markets. Wagme, has your conviction changed around this industry at all?
No, not for me. No.
How's your conviction?
Still same, it's pretty good. Very good. Yeah, very good.
It's a bad way to get bad actors out, but at least they're out of the game.
Did you have money on FTX?
No, I'm good.
You're safe.
I'm safe.
Were you surprised that it was FTX and Sam?
Was I personally? No.
Were you surprised that it was FTX?
I'm very surprised that it was FTX. I wouldn't have predicted it, but crypto is being crypto, man.
Did you have any money on FTX?
I did not.
Are you lucky? You thought it would be Sam?
Yeah, they spent way too much money on advertising.
That's a good point.
The moment you start putting your name on arenas and stuff, you just know like it's a marketing game and it's not actually about making money. So, you know.
Yeah, the Crypto Banter logo is not on any arena, so I think we're going to go up to the moon. You didn't have any money on FTX?
No, I didn't.
You're so lucky.
Yeah, it's.
You didn't have money on FTX, she's lucky. You can see that there are lots of exhibitors, Bullish, the exchange, BitGet, our partner exchange over here, Ripple is here, and a crossover with EY here and a whole lot of others. Wondering how you're feeling, what the sentiment is here at the conference.
People are very motivated about the market. It's still like a good sentiment, I think, even what happened to FTX.
I mean, no one can believe what's happened to FTX, and they'll never be able to build their brand back ever again. I mean, it's a real shock event for the industry, and I really hope we're able to come out of it stronger.
And how are you feeling about broadly what this has done for the crypto markets?
Well, it's pretty terrible.
I mean, broadly right now, people don't know where it's safe to park their crypto assets. But if you can't trust FTX, what centralized platform can you trust?
Don't sell your Bitcoins. Do not sell your Bitcoins. Do not sell your Ethereum. It will rise again.
There is the main stage. Lots of people here, as you can see, huge conference. How is your sentiment, how's your mindset after the events the last couple of days?
Oh, sad days for crypto, but good for DeFi, which I'm part of.
Okay, so
Yeah, it's great for DeFi. I mean, after what happened, I think it can only benefit us. So in the long term, I'm bullish.
the mood's positive. I don't know what else to tell you. I thought people would be more negative, but let's carry on. How are you feeling? How's your mood? How's your sentiment?
I'm pretty relaxed, but more pain incoming.
More pain incoming?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Why?
But we just got to keep building.
Now, the great thing is that when we got here, the inflation numbers came out. They were much better than expected, and so that may actually impact sentiment too. Right now, as we speak, the market's up. As you can see, people building, meetings going on. Nothing has changed. We carry on.
That's just a taste of the talk of the week. We're going to sit down with some serious minds in the industry. Binance, Galaxy, 1KX, GSR, Animoca, and more expert takes on where we are and where we're going. Surprisingly, the conference was fucking packed. 2,500 attendees jammed the floors and filled the halls. It was standing room only for top talks. Institutional names like Google, Goldman Sachs, and driving adoption in gaming and NFTs like Animoca, Sandbox, and Chili's. DeFi names like Aave and Beefy. Rival and up-and-coming chains may be competing to take over the stunted Solana this week. Ripple, Aptos, Near, Starkware, Scale, Tezos, EOS, and Phantom were all right here. And exchanges looking to maybe capture some of FTX's market share, like Binance, Bullish, Bitget, Bittrex, Bitcoin and Blockchain.com. And funds like Polychain, Fabric, 1KX and more, all postulating, maybe pontificating, what the hell happened and how we can hopefully continue to build from here. We watched the saga unfold all week, and part of the news that broke came from Binance. We sat down with its executive VP to get her take on the market today. And of course, I had to avoid speaking directly about FTX or the Binance takeover.
Helen, you're here, it's been a crazy week. What do you think of the mood here at Token 2049, given what's going on the outside?
I think it's a very good time in a way to recalibrate. I think because it's a time for the investor to recalibrate, the time for the regulators to recalibrate, and the same thing for the industry player to recalibrate. And I think in every industry, during this recalibration time, it's always important to going back to the fundamentals. And then personally, myself, I'm a strong believer in blockchain technology. I do believe, blockchain and crypto is going to add in a lot of values to our society, and this is what I've talked about in the previous panel. I think if we're looking at, whether there's always incident, black swan moment, happen incident in every industry, but the whole question you have to go back is there a values in the fundamentals? And I think my answer in this is there's a very strong fundamentals in values.
Do you see the value in the fundamental having increased after this week? And let me clarify my statement here. The entities that are failing crypto, Celsius, 3 Arrows Capital, SBF, are all centralized entities which are not reporting things on-chain. The entities that have not yet failed are the entities that are reporting things on-chain. Do you think that now you have more conviction in technology as a result?
That's a very good question. I think there's need to be certain separations. Today, for example, let's think about the time went back 100 years ago. If we talk about stock exchange, there's London Stock Exchange, New York Stock Exchange, there's a lot of many other exchanges. And then there's also a lot of stocks on the exchanges. You can't, because certain fall of the stocks, or maybe certain fall of certain stock exchanges, talking about the stock exchange fundamental, the mechanism doesn't work. That need to be separate, three separate things. And I think I want to focusing on is actually the fundamental about blockchain and crypto. It has a very strong values. But then in terms of what's the exchanges and also a lot of coins on exchanges, that's a separate topics. Yeah. So I think during this time, I'm a strong believer in the core fundamentals. And I think particularly with what's going on, it's always important to also go back to the fundamentals and to check whether we're really helping those fundamentals. I'm a strong believer in the blockchain technology. Why is that? I think there are two things. Number one, I think if we look at economic transformation, post-Second World War, there's a big economic transformation in Asia. Why? Because during the Second Industrial Revolution, Asian countries was able to capture that opportunity, created millions of jobs for the peoples in the bottom of the pyramid. That is the jump start of their economic transformation. And then what happened with the Third Industrial Revolution, internet-based, and happened in the last 30 years. Yes, we have been advancing, celebrating the technological advancement in Europe, in many countries, but the world didn't become a better place. 1% of the population is holding 90% of the global wealth. This is what happened, in the last 30 years. If we look at the fundamental of what happened with internet, it achieved free transfer of values. 30 years ago, you and me will never know what happened, in Chicago. We need to rely on a newspaper, rely on a third party writing something in order for us to know thousands of miles away. Today with internet, we were able to achieve free transfer of information. But the fundamental we are in, the industry we are in, is trying to achieve the free transfer of values. That is what's going to happen in the from now on to the coming 20, 30 years.
After the events of this week, what do you think the regulatory implications are going to be? And I ask you because I guess because you're with Binance, you fall under the centralized part of the industry, which is probably going to be regulated now. What do you think the before and after this week is going to do to the regulators?
I think, for example, the regulator has always been is going to be more strict regulations into the industry.
So you think we're going to get tighter regulations?
I think tighter regulation is good for the industry because if we're still looking at the bigger picture, I think the global penetration for the whole blockchain and crypto industry is still very small. We're still talking about less than 5% of the population. I think regulation should play a very healthy role to do that because regulator actually give consumer and also institution more confidence.
Versus FOMO. If you do it because you really believe the technology is going to change the world, this is a great time to enter. If you're going to FOMO, those people are all getting flashed out.
Yes, that's what I see, and that's why I think for the long-term development, this is going to be more healthy because the people who actually stayed are the people who are focused in building the real values for the customer. This is actually Binance has been doing since day one. We have always been putting the customer in the center, how to create values for the customers, how to protect these assets, and that is something we will continue building.
Long-term focus on customers. Now that's something to think about for centralized exchanges.
Thank you very much.
So we've been talking to panelists and experts, but let's be here on the floor to find out what the retail sentiment is actually. Just wondering how your mindset is, how your mood is, given everything that's going on outside.
We're a DeFi application, so we're builders. So we're just going to keep building. We're less worried about price appreciation and all the outside noise. The more important thing is that we're showing how centralization is something that we need to move away from and how DeFi is so important. And so I think, if anything, this is going to showcase that.
Beefy's great. No, we know Beefy. Beefy's great. I didn't realize I was standing next to Beefy. No, you guys are great. We love your product. Absolutely amazing. How does this affect CoinWeb, your view of the industry, your view of the future?
We're just getting on and we're building. As simple as that. And we don't stop.
So that's the sentiment, guys. People are optimistic long-term. Builders keep building. And I guess the real builders just keep their head down, ignore the FUD, and keep going onwards and upwards. Let's carry on. Guys, how are you feeling given what's going on in the markets?
We're in DeFi, and I guess we saw that DeFi is superior
better than CeFi.
to CeFi, so.
That's another big takeout. DeFi is better than CeFi, and these collapses actually make DeFi stronger, which is really why we're here.
Next, let's do a real deal VC-centered roundup of some of the movers and shakers to get their take on the week that was and the future that needs to be built. Galaxy's Europe, Middle East, Asia lead was here and testifying at the UK Banking Committee panel saying that we need to admit mea culpa as an industry and not make these mistakes again on such a big scale.
After the events of this week, I wonder if we can still expect the institutional capital to come into crypto. I mean, we've been waiting a long time for the institutional capital to come in. We saw some signs of it arriving, but then we had this week's setback. Tim, what do you think? Do you think we're going to get the institutions in here? Do you think this week set us back?
There's no question that it set us back, right? It is very, very frustrating to kind of be sitting at this point, going through our Lehman moment, which naturally is going to be jumped on by anyone who was kind of trying to slow things down. This is the ammunition they needed. So here's the more optimistic view, though. As we saw during Lunaterra, there was a big onboarding demand at that point. We saw a lot more institutions want to come in when that repricing happened. I think it might be a little bit different now because of a lot of institutional casualties with FTX, like very big names, very big pools of capital, institutional capital. However, we might see more of that. It's a better entry point. And the underlying sort of adoption cycle we don't see slowing down, but it might set us back a little bit for sure.
As an industry, where did we go wrong? Here, in the specific case, where did we go wrong as an industry?
There's a certain hubris that I think needs to be, we just need to all get with the program and recognize that there's a lot of things we don't need to reinvent. Risk management, good compliance, and at the end of the day, trust. So, are we gonna, did we as an industry just go through a moment where we all have to do a little bit of a mea culpa? Definitely, all of us. We all need to just be recognized that that's the reality. And what does that really mean in terms of what we do next? Well, we just need to be transparent, right? So we didn't know what SBF was up to between FTX and Alameda. We'll find out. I'm sure there'll be movies made about this. But that can't happen. We've got to just not allow that to happen. And there's a bit of self-policing that we need to do, right?
But we've been talking about self-policing since 2015. I guess the notion of self-policing, it's either going to be on-chain,
yes,
or it's going to be off-chain, in which case, my opinion over the last week is if it's going to be off-chain and it's going to be centralized, then the regulators should regulate it like they regulate every other on-chain industry. And I guess what the regulators have done well is they've regulated greed. Now, you can argue that they've over-regulated and that they may over-regulate us. But ultimately what we're seeing now is that the centralized entities are the ones that have failed. That's the way that I've seen.
100%. Look, this is an interesting inflection point because it points to the limitations of CeFi, points to the limitations of centralization and private companies where we don't know what they're doing. But it also points to the potential value of DeFi, right? Like this is a moment where we can leverage the inherent transparency, like this whole discussion around proof of reserves, which is absolutely right. Let's make sure we can assess that. Now, what regulators are doing is really trying to do the same thing. If we can socialize that, that's the promise, the magic of everything that we're working towards. The truth, though, is it's going to be a bit of both, right? It's going to be regulators coming in and doing what they do. The UK has a fantastic opportunity based on the Financial Services and Markets Bill that's going through Parliament right now, which went through the lower house and now could go into legislation, to bring crypto into the regulatory perimeter. Now, that would mean every regulated institution in the City of London could start trading crypto unencumbered the next day.
If I said to you now, and I said to you, I think this is the best thing that could have ever happened to Bitcoin, Ethereum, decentralization, and DeFi, would you agree with me?
Maybe I would have to agree with you. Like it's hard to feel that today because we're in the middle of it. It's hard to feel that because the hard work that so many of us are doing has just been like potentially set back, as we said. However, we know that the outcome of this is going to be a stronger, better, wiser system. And the one good bit of kind of underlying news here is alongside the institutional adoption cycle, there's plenty of money. There's plenty of money looking for a home in this space. Good projects will get funded, no matter how bad it gets, no matter how far it goes.
Do you think that that's it? We've seen it? Or do you think there's still a whole lot of repercussions and unwindings and realizing who Alameda owed money to? And
I think inevitably it's the latter. I think we're going to have to pick through this and figure out who had exposure. More people will go down. Yeah, you've got to recognize, and again, this isn't like Lunaterra, which was a very sort of crypto native contained thing. This is much more like into the companies like Temasek and Quebec, and Sequoia just wrote down its entire investment in FTX today. So it's the mighty Sequoia. However, if you take the macro situation and look, we had a slightly better than maybe we hoped CPI print today, right? So, okay, could this be that the inflation genie is getting back in the bottle? If we start to see that, and that's a big if, and we see that less recession than maybe we're worried about, then the bounce, the crypto bounce, is going to be very meaningful. Mike Novogratz has said this publicly as well. Like at that point, the money's going to come flying in, and we are to the moon.
What a great way to end it.
A bounce to the moon, Galaxy says. Meanwhile, the Berlin-based Eurocentric 1KX and its partner Diana Biggs helped open the conference with Polychain, agreeing it's been one of the craziest days in crypto.
Welcome to the Crypto Investor Roundtable.
So after the events of the last few days, it's been a crazy few days in crypto. I'm catching up here with Diana Biggs, who's actually recently joined 1KX. Now, usually we speak to Lassa, so it's great to have a new face from 1KX on the show. Diana, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
I mean, I'm going to just drop the bomb and say, what do you think of the events of the last couple of days?
You know, it's interesting. It's a continuation of what we started to see in May, obviously with like the Terra collapse, of really the more centralized platforms kind of having a bit of this sort of empire's new clothes, which I think in that case and from that perspective stands testament to actually like the DeFi platforms, to more on-chain activity, and how the testaments and what you can see on chain actually being your source of truth versus what some people might be saying or claiming on Twitter.
Up until now, as an industry, we've been fighting back against regulation. But you got to take a step back and say, if there was regulation, maybe some of this wouldn't have happened. Maybe a lot of people wouldn't have got wrecked. So now with everything that's just happened, what are your views on regulation? Do you think that we should have more regulation?
So I think there is an inevitability around regulation. I think what's really important is it to be done in the right way, in a way that does not stifle innovation, in a way that does not prevent all of this innovation, and is that reasonable rather than sort of potentially used as an excuse to tamper all of what could be really the great value that's being built here, and so that we end up exactly where we are today, but sort of similar as we have now with fintechs and traditional finance being sort of lipstick on a pig. Like we're really in this to create much more fundamental change, and that's going to require like more rethinking, more new paradigms.
How bad is this? How bad is this? How long do you think it'll take the industry to recover?
So I think it will take time, obviously, for all of these things to wind out and to really see where we are. Obviously, overall for this industry, I think the outlook is extremely positive, and that actually getting some of these things out of the way, getting these hard lessons learned, sort of similar to like a financial crisis of our own in this industry, and then we can build it better and in whatever form that takes.
Does your investment thesis change, having seen this, or is your investment thesis exactly the same?
So at 1KX, we're focused on token networks. So for us, that stays the
token networks are safe through all of this.
Exactly.
All right, Dan, it's been so good to speak to you. A calming voice in a tumultuous time, I would say.
She brings up one heck of a point, and one that the entire institutional panel could agree on. Token networks, DeFi, and decentralization that is code-based over people-based like we see in centralized exchanges should take center stage.
On the stage here a few minutes ago, there was a panel with a whole lot of institutional investors. So I thought I'd steal one of the guys from the panel to give us some more insight about the implications of what we just had. How do you think their perception of the industry has changed, if at all?
I think it's a little bit more of the same story that we had earlier this year after Luna collapsed, and we saw the low level of transparency and the contagion within the industry of cross loans is really just leverage, right?
It's all leverage.
People giving each other leverage, and it was just untransparent. You didn't know who was lending to who, how much exposure anyone had, and it turns out that there was a lot of leverage in the system that was backed by very few assets.
What are your views around regulation and how fast it's going to come in and how stringent it's going to be?
We're very pro-regulation because if we talk about regulation, what we're talking about is fair and orderly markets and consumer protection. The transparency that crypto firms need to show to other institutions is regardless of regulation. If institutions should come into the crypto market and they want to trade with a GSR, they will ask for financials, and we will show them financials. Simple as that.
But we've got to play a fair game. How do you feel about the fact that one of the poster kids of crypto, and even a poster child of crypto that was campaigning for very stringent regulation as recently as a week ago, is the one that collapsed. Collapsed with egg all over their face.
I mean, as an industry, it's very disappointing that we had, a lot of the sort of rest of world seeing crypto through FTX's eyes and ears. And I think that the answer to all these things is increased transparency. We should be talking about, the potential of crypto, potential of DeFi, potential of, all the industries that it can improve. It's, leverage, lack of transparency, and greed.
You said that you were at Solana Breakpoint a week ago. Now events have transpired. How do you feel about the future of Solana? And specifically why I phrase that question is because SBF or FTX or Alameda was a very big token holder in Solana, which means there's an overhang of tokens. They were also a very big investor in the ecosystem.
I know too little to know whether this has any material impact, but what I do know is that Solana has a great community. There is more people out there that are backing Solana projects. Until I know anything more, I have no reason to believe that Solana, hopefully, will be shielded from these events and can continue focusing on building out their layer one.
Speaking of Solana, we'll go in depth on all things Solana coming up on our next featured episode. For now, let's go back to the floor and see what everyone's saying and what everyone's thinking.
Let's chat to the guys standing next to Lambo. Guys, Cinchblock, how are you guys feeling?
Cinchblock is doing beautiful right now. How are you guys doing?
Even with what's going on in the market?
Hey, come on, man. You gotta have a happy front somehow, right?
Are you buying the dip?
Of course I'm buying the dip.
I love it, I love it. You see, people here are still positive. They're still happy. They're still in crypto. Let's carry on. Okay, we're at the entrance to token 2049. As you can see, it's sponsored by Bullish. I guess they're still bullish regardless of what's happening on the markets. All right, here we have a Banter fan.
Yay, Banter family!
Are you confident
I
about...
am very confident that the future is bright for crypto.
Even with all these collapses and unleveraging?
That's where you build, right? That's what I learned. You build in the bear market.
You build in the bear market.
You build in the bear market.
Banter fan for
I'm
life.
sticking.
Amazing. So am I.
Like
so am I. So am I. Now let me ask you, how are you feeling about what's going on in the markets?
I feel amazing.
You're not concerned?
No.
Deleveraging?
No, by the blood.
By the blood?
By the blood.
Banter fam, right?
Yeah, Banter fam.
Must be. We've taught them well. We've taught them well. Oh, sorry. I thought you were Sam Bankman-Fried. It was the hair from the back. How are you guys feeling about being in crypto and what's going on in the markets?
Well, CZ just bought my exchange, so I'm not very happy about that.
Oh, no. Do you still feel good that you're in crypto?
Yeah, I mean, it's really unsettling, but when I joined crypto, it was more of a 10-year decision, so my mind hasn't changed. I think the amount of talent in the space and all the developments that are happening are long-term still very bullish on the space.
Wow, you see, that's the sentiment here. Everybody's long-term bullish and everyone's just brushing it all off. Nice to see you, Mr. Sam Bank. So that's the sentiment here on the floor at Token 2049, right here in London. Now let's go back to the set and continue with our coverage. More alpha per minute than any other channel.
A lot of the building we see happening these days isn't just DeFi exchanges, but it's NFTs, gaming and metaverse. And the top venture studio out there investing in it is of course Animoca Brands and their founder Yat Siu. I wanted to get his take on user growth, specifically against the background of what just happened.
Sometimes in times of chaos and mayhem, all we need is a reassuring voice, someone who's just got a reassuring demeanor and been around for a while. And so I was walking here at the conference and I saw Yat and I just thought, you know what, this is the perfect guy. He's got that reassuring voice and he's got that reassuring demeanor. Yat, reassure us, bro.
Right.
We've had a crazy couple of days. It's been brutal.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you look at what happened, obviously there's, I think to some degree, some shock in the system. But I think if you think about the speed in which it was resolved, even though obviously everyone's sort of worrying about the contagion, I have to say that there's a certain level of maturity that took place. SBF had, had a conversation with CZ and they came to a way in which they could basically solve the problem, which to me, if you look at it optimistically, it means that there is a way in which the industry does collaborate together to solve something.
I take it you weren't directly exposed?
No.
What about all your investments? A lot of your investments, I know, are sitting on Solana blockchain. A lot of the games are being built on Solana blockchain. SBF, FTX was a big bastion for Solana. FTX was a launchpad. Sam was a big investor. Alameda/SBF today own about 10% of the tokens on Solana. How does this affect your thesis?
Fundamentally, the question to me isn't about, what is the financial value. Fundamentally, the question to me is the security, is the system, is the ledger protected, is the infrastructure secure enough with the current setup? And I would argue it still is.
But in terms of I think let's break away from the FTX discussion and talk about gaming itself.
Yes.
And I'm trying to get a feel as an investor in the gaming industry.
Yeah.
What are the chains that you're most bullish on for the mass adoption around metaverse, NFTs?
So I would say momentum. Polygon has a lot of momentum, right? I mean, what's happened with Reddit, for instance. When you look at, for instance, our gaming ecosystems, I think of the top 5 games, 3 of them are Animoca games. So we have a very close relationship with Polygon, but we're also very supportive of Immutable. We think what's happening there with GameStop is really exciting. We're building MotoGP on Flow. So you can kind of see the trend.
You guys are completely multi-chain.
We're multi-chain, and we want this to happen, and we want people to build this way. As a developer, you have the ability to take the benefit of any of these chains. And what's interesting? Despite the market, they're still here investing. Web3 gaming is the biggest area of investment. Just look at the numbers. This year, over $200 billion will be spent on gaming. 3.4 billion people are playing games. There's still only single-digit millions in the space, right? And what? This is the thing. Most people get confused about it. They're like, well, where does the value come from? Over $110 billion this year will be spent in user acquisition costs in the gaming industry. Can you imagine? It goes to Apple, it goes to Google, it goes to Facebook. How much of that money comes back into the gaming industry? Nothing. And then, not to mention the 30% fees that Apple and Google and Steam charge just for the privilege of having the game on their platform. So we're talking about billions and billions of dollars of value that never comes back into the gaming system. That's what Web3 will change. It opens up the financial value for intermediaries to come in to provide better value to the players. And that's what it is. This isn't money out of thin air. There's an ecosystem that has value that already exists in a financial system that is just not open and transparent. And that's what we think about blockchain. Financial systems and blockchain is about opening up financial transparency. DeFi is better than CeFi. Transparency that happens on-chain is better than what happens off-chain. The same will happen with gaming. That's why we're so bullish.
I wanted a reassuring voice. I got it. Yeah, thank you, my friend.
Thank you so much.
From the experts and the floor, I'm going to take a break, and then you guys are going to go hear from our sponsors.
Welcome to Bitcasino, the home of fast, fun, and fair gaming. So, whether you love a daring game of Team Patty or Andar Bahar, or love to live on the edge with some roulette, you're guaranteed a thrillingly seamless experience. From depositing, placing bets, and withdrawals. We accept many cryptocurrencies at the world's best crypto casino. Register to join the world's most exciting Bitcoin casino at bitcasino.io.
Remember, all this coverage is brought to you by our sponsors, including Bitcoin.com, that in light of this week is interesting to feature as they are a truly non-custodial wallet. Again, non-custodial. Something to think about.
Okay, so we're here with one of our sponsors, Bitcoin.com. I've got Corbin with me. Corbin, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me.
What do you think of the turnout here, given what's going on the outside of this?
I love it, yeah. I think there's lots of smiles despite what's happening in the wider ecosystem. I think there's still some good energy here. It's good turnout.
I've known Bitcoin.com for a long time.
Yep.
In fact, I go back with Roger many, many years. I spent time with him in St. Kitts.
Yep.
But that's not the Bitcoin.com of today, right?
Yeah, we've changed. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what you guys are, what you guys are doing.
Yeah, for the last couple of years, we've really been expanding our multi-chain support. So our big focus is non-custodial first. So we support Bitcoin, Ethereum, Avalanche, Bitcoin Cash. We just launched Polygon a few days ago. We're expanding more support for more EVM chains and non-EVM chains over the next few months here. So our real focus is just making non-custodial wallets user-friendly, easy for everyone to use.
Now, I was blown away by the number of users that Bitcoin.com has. I mean,
yeah.
Can you share the numbers?
Sure. Yeah, so we've got 35 million wallets created. You can go download a wallet for free at Bitcoin.com. It's available on iOS and Google Play. Basically, we've seen upwards growth, bear or bull. We're in a very fortunate position with the domain Bitcoin.com. We've got constant growth. When folks are searching, what is Bitcoin? When is the best time to buy Bitcoin? they often find us either on the App Store or on Google, and of course we encourage them to try out our non-custodial wallet.
And I mean, now there's a much bigger discussion around non-custodial after what happened, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, the non-custodial model is a requirement at this point. I think we've seen time and time again the custodial model of being a crypto bank like FTX or like any of these others. There's just a huge risk for the end user. And in my opinion, if you're not using a non-custodial wallet, you're putting yourself and your wealth at risk.
You know what my biggest take out of this week, and I must say I'm pretty guilty because I have been supporting centralized entities in a decentralized environment.
Of course.
But now I'm starting to move all decentralized.
Yeah.
Non-custodial, decentralized. That's why I got in here.
Yep.
That's why I'm going to stay here.
Yep.
And every time we support the centralized players, they let us down.
Yeah, I think users should be pissed off. Users should be upset about this, and I think companies need to really look at what they're doing from a business practice and say, are we doing what's in our best interest of our users, and are we doing what's in our best interest for the long-term future of our company? And this is why Bitcoin.com said non-custody first, DEX first. We've got the Verse DEX on Ethereum. We're expanding our DEX onto more chains. We see the non-custodial model being the future of crypto because it doesn't have these risk factors.
All right, so you heard it here from our sponsor, Bitcoin.com. And if you do want to support our sponsor who's helped us bring this amazing content to you guys, go to Bitcoin.com and take out a non-custodial wallet. Obviously, it's free. There's no cost associated with a non-custodial wallet, and you're protecting yourself and you're protecting your crypto. And I can't stress that enough. If you want one, there's a referral link below in the description from our sponsors.
From non-custodial wallets, let's go to the top thinker in the space, Dan Tapiero, who's looking at the charts and the fundamentals, not the prices. And he's seeing growth.
After the week that was, I think we all wanted to hear a calming voice. And Dan Tapiero, who's a station favorite of Crypto Banter, got on the stage. And when he left, everyone was calm. And everyone was positive. Why are you so calm?
Okay, well, first of all, I'm older than most of the guys there. So I've lived through many cycles, okay? I've seen lots of fraud in the markets before, in the traditional markets. We have these moments in crypto. It's negative, but it's a free market. The crypto market, what I love about it, it's a true free capitalist market. No one is coming in, no government is coming in to save you. The bad actors get flushed out. The guys who have too much leverage get flushed out. And the people who really believe in the long-term story of what I call the digitization of all value, the people who believe and invest in that thesis over the long term, they're all here and intact. And that was really what I talked about. And I showed 20 different charts, and I've given you some of these charts.
Some of the charts that you're most bullish with.
Well, the charts basically show that there are a lot of areas within this digital asset ecosystem that are showing growth. And I think that surprises a lot of people. They look at the price, they say, oh my goodness, Solana's down 80% plus from the high, or whatever it is. Yes, it's down 80%, but it's still up 20 to 30 times from 18 months ago, 20 months ago. This is a very important macro guy, big picture distinction to make. In the traditional world, no one makes 30x in 18 months.
Showed this chart over here, and this chart shows how the chains have grown and the returns that people have got in a certain period of time. Which was
right now, the point only is that yes, there are huge gains that evaporated, but there were 100x or 150x that turned into 20 or 30. Again, in a very short period of time. If you've spent your life, like most of the traditional market guys, in bonds and currencies, emerging markets, even in the biggest currency depegs that you had in Asia in '97, other deep depegs, Russian default, you get big moves. But these are dwarfing anything that we would see in the old world, certainly in an 18-month period. And so my point really is that there's a huge amount of value. The dollars that have accrued, that are building in this world, are enormous. And just because Bitcoin is down a certain amount, or a huge drop on the day, or we have a a nefarious actor with SBF, whatever it's proven to be, these markets are still holding tremendous value. And so the 20 charts I showed, and you can choose the ones that you like, basically confirm the growth in the in the underlying metrics continues to go up.
So, I mean, the one that I loved was this one here, which was the growth in the top currencies.
Yes.
The growth in Bitcoin holders.
Yeah, you see the growth here. I take my glasses off. This is on-chain wallets holding more than 0.1 ETH. That's at an all-time high. The percentage of Bitcoin held over 1 year, that's an all-time high. We have a massive move into crypto, into VC funds. Again, you go from 0 to 30 billion in, 50 billion now accumulated between the 2 years. And
I also love this one. I love the OpenSea one. I love that one.
Yeah, well, that's incredible. I mean, people talk about, the NFTs are all going to zero. Well, they're not, number one. Number two, this is 2 million people. Okay, 2 million people are active on, not every day, on OpenSea, but cumulative. Here's another great one. This is Art Blocks, their curated set, the first 8 pieces of art that were minted, all-time high just now. And in different areas. Look, here's another one. This is number of GameFi protocols by chain, just hit a record. So these are different areas underneath the surface that continue to show, record growth. Someone asked me in there, someone asked me, what would make you change your mind? And I said, well, if all the charts I was looking at were going in the other direction, going from high to low, I might be concerned. But even basic things like this is on-chain volume of stable coins, right?
Also exponential.
Very high. Look, and just zoom out a little bit, have a 2-year view. These are worlds that did not exist at all. And so you go from 0, again, another one, here, amount of Bitcoin locked on Ethereum, Lightning capacity just now at an all-time high. Here's total staked Ethereum. This one is gas expenditure for layer 2s. So again, they're all showing that this ecosystem is alive and well. And this is the most important one. Developers remain active. You've got new downloads of coding kits required to build on ETH.
So you're saying...
here, 2 very clear...
This is a big noise, it's a big shock. But it doesn't change the fundamentals because the charts are the charts and technology's being used. And that's pretty much where we're at.
The use cases have been increasing.
Do you think we've seen the bottom of the cycle now? Everyone says...
I think the bottom is Q4, Q1. I'm not really interested in picking a specific day or moment, but I think that the maximum amount of stress from the traditional world, which was being imposed by the Fed rate hikes, I think the maximum amount of pain is Q4, Q1. And I think essentially, with an event like we've had the last day or two, a lot of capitulation. I can't say yesterday was the absolute low, but in this zone over the next few months, yes.
Dan,
I think.
what an amazing way to end the conference.
All right.
Or what an amazing way that you ended the conference here. Thank you so much.
Okay,
my pleasure. The Banter fam love you and
right.
good to see you again.
Thank you.
So if Dan's right, well then maybe sideways through Q4 and Q1. Finally, let's wrap up with some forecasts from the floor.
All right, so we've reached almost the end of Token 2049. We've talked to experts. Now let's go and find out how everyone feels about the future, about things going forward. Let's go and find out. I see we've got Scallop over here. How are you guys feeling about the future of crypto after what happened?
We are optimistic.
Optimistic,
Absolutely,
amazing.
Yes.
Raj, how are you feeling about the future of crypto and after everything that's going on?
Well, it will be definitely get better because regulations are coming in place. Once we follow all the regulations, the future will be great. It's unstoppable.
That's the message. I guess the centralized players are going to get regulation, and for DeFi, it's all good. For stuff that's on chain, It's all good. So you guys keep building, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's the key point of this speech and the talk here is the builders. Building is quite important. Yeah.
Let's go to the coffee stand. That's where there's always a lot of people.
Oh, yes, Crypto Rand from
Yeah.
South Africa.
Yeah.
Big fan.
How are you feeling about the future of crypto right now at the end of the conference?
Never more optimistic, never more bullish, never more enthusiastic about the future. Wash away the crap and bring on the real deals like you.
What a closing message. What a closing message from a member of the Banter family.
My man. Let's bring it on.
How are you feeling about the future of crypto at the end of the conference?
Yeah, so I feel hopeful actually. Yeah, I'm very...
Even with what's going on outside?
Even with what's going on outside.
How are you feeling about the future of crypto at the end of this conference?
Future is here to stay.
What do you think?
Very bullish, long term.
You're bullish?
Yes.
Very enthusiastic.
Guys, how are you feeling about the future of crypto at the end of this conference?
Amazing, amazing. We believe that it will change everything after that.
Yeah, so many people building right now, and the price is very low. Everyone knows it's going to stay around, and it's going to automate worldwide payments. So,
how's it going? Cool, man. How are you feeling about crypto with everything that's going on?
I feel it's time to build more, so you have to switch the notification off and keep working. That's it. That's the only way that you can do.
What a great message. Turn the notifications off and keep building.
Last time we were in Singapore together. A token.
You can't tell me whether you think we've finally seen the bottom.
Well, honestly, right now, things are the craziest I've ever seen, right? It's absolutely wild. Bottom? When? Who knows, right? It's crazy. This is absolutely crazy.
I think diamonds are forged within heat and pressure. And I think, going through all these various things, there's going to be a lot that comes out of it.
Diamonds are formed with heat and pressure. That is the best saying I've heard at the whole of Token 2049. Alrighty, my friends, that brings to an end our coverage of Token 2049 here in London on the craziest week that crypto's ever seen. I guess the sentiment here is mixed. Some people surprised about SBF, others not. The builders are building though, and people are bullish about the future. That's the main takeout. I'll see you guys again soon. Until then, trade well, my friends.